Oh, it's me. Okay. Hi.
There we
That
go.
was funny.
You know, it's
Throwing
funny. I
me in
clicked
at
the
the
button,
deep end,
but
I
I
was
clicked
like,
it too
okay.
fast. Hello.
Hello.
Nice to
Hi.
see you both. The dream team, I'd say the dream team is
We
here.
are
Aw.
representing the Commonwealth through and through.
Yes.
That's right.
Is it all hail the king now or something?
God save the king.
God save the
Wow.
king.
That's so strange.
Yeah, it is very strange. But we won't get into that because that can open up a whole can of worms. Welcome to PTS for Life and Escaping the Cultiverse A and Apostate Alex. We are all ex-Scientologists working to expose the Church of Scientology. Gabe and I are both from Canada, and Alex, you are from England. Is that correct? London, right? Specifically?
That is true. Yes, I'm in London.
Nice.
We're
I
on
kind of
either
thought maybe.
ends.
What's
We're
that?
we're on either ends of Canada now.
Yeah, I think you and I are probably just as far away from each other than you are from Alex, even though we're in the same country.
Really?
Probably. I mean, Canada is huge.
It
Well,
is
it's
massive.
what, 3,500 kilometers or?
How long's the flight from where you are, Gabriel, to Vancouver?
I didn't fly. I took us 10 days to drive here.
But like, if you were to fly, how long
6
would it
hours.
be?
About 5-6 hours, I think.
Yeah. It's about the same from here to the East Coast.
Really?
Canada's a big place.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the second tangent so far.
We're doing great.
Yeah, 2.5 minutes in. All right, so let's just quickly go over briefly our story, who we are, what we're doing here. Gabrielle, would you like to start off?
Yeah, so I got into Scientology, about 30 years ago, I guess. I was in my early 20s. Did a bunch of staff stints, did some training in Los Angeles. I ended up being the executive director for the Church of Scientology of British Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's officially, its official name. And then I left in 2013, and there's a lot of detail in between. And if you want to know more, Alex did an interview with me, about 6 months ago now, I guess.
Yeah, but there's going to be more coming out soon on your channel, right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
I keep trying to push you to get going on your channel. I know
you have
moving
two
a lot.
gingers teaming up against you here.
Yeah.
And on that note, if you wouldn't mind popping over to Gabe's channel, there's a link in my description. Give her some watch hours and make sure you like and subscribe on hers. And looks like Goldie, the all trusting Goldie, has posted a link there, and so did Alex.
I've also just posted a link.
Awesome.
Wow. Thanks, guys.
And Alex, tell us a brief overview on your story so everyone knows.
Yeah. So I was the director of public book sales at the Church of Scientology in London. I joined Scientology as a teenager, kind of looking for something more, like, answers to why I'm here in life, what I'm doing, all that sort of stuff. Joined Scientology. And long story short, I got kicked out, and then I rejoined, and then I got kicked out again. And then I was declared a potential trouble source. And then for a couple of years after that, I was trying to, get my way back in and still study Scientology. And then sort of gradually just drifted away. I think the last course I did was probably 2016 or 2017 or so. And then, started speaking out about my experiences only a few months ago. I think February I started my channel, and now we're here.
And you're doing amazing. How far are you away from 10,000 subscribers?
I'm currently at 8,625.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Your stats are very high. Well done.
Yeah, I'm up stat. I'm actually in power. No, it's been really surprising at how much the channel has grown. You know, when I first started, people were encouraging me to start a channel, and I was like, yeah, well, I don't know, I might make a video here and there, and it's just surprising to see how much interest there is in this, and also how much there is to talk about. Like, I thought, well, I was in Scientology for, you know, on staff 3 years, and then I was still in Scientology, you know, total less than 10 years. Like, I don't have too many stories, but then the more I start thinking about it and remembering stuff, the more I'm like, oh my god, no, I completely forgot about this whole section of my life, and it's all kind of
Yeah.
coming back. And then meeting other former Scientologists and like sharing experiences is like, it's a goldmine. I've got a list of like things to talk about on my channel, and I'm like, oh, well, I've just thought of an idea, I'll put it on here. And every time I like go on there to see what can I do a video about, I come up with another 10 ideas, and the list is just getting longer and longer, even though I'm creating more and more content.
Yeah, it is never ending for sure, and especially since I got all these books donated to me by my mother, it's been a day of just going through and seeing all the discrepancies and things that I believed once that are now absolute total horse. You know what? I don't want to swear too early, but. And then just briefly about myself, my name is Jeff. I live in the Vancouver area, although just outside Vancouver. I grew up in Scientology. I went to a Scientology school my entire life, and I spent probably 8 to 10 years on staff at the Vancouver organization. Not all on, I guess some of it was on day, some foundation. I spent some time in DSA, which is the spy wing for the local organization, and a little bit of time in the Sea Org. However, I never actually completed the EPF, which is the boot camp for the Sea Org, and therefore was never truly a Sea Org member. The purpose of my channel is to bring awareness to the abuses that also happen in Class 5 organizations and as public, not necessarily the higher echelon of Scientology, which is the Sea Org. And today's topic is probably the most insidious, certainly for my life, and the one that has affected my life the most, and that is the concept of disconnection.
Yeah.
So I do happen to have the ethics book, and so I'm going to quickly go over a few things just so people understand where we're coming from with the concept. So there is the condition of being PTS. And PTS means potential trouble source. And this is someone who is directly being connected and affected by a suppressive person. And a suppressive person, there you go.
That's my potential trouble source declare.
Yeah. I've written a few of those.
Alex, you were type D, is that correct? So you were responsible for conditioned PTS.
Exactly. I can read the thing out if you want.
That's amazing.
Sorry?
I can read it if you want me to.
Yeah, we should definitely read that after for sure.
Yeah.
So suppressive person being someone who is essentially anti-Scientology. Now, the reason that they say that if you're anti-Scientology or a suppressive person or a bad person is because Scientology is the best thing in the world, the only thing that will save the world, and therefore, if you are against it, you must be evil. And then there are two things you can do to in the PTS handling. If you are found to be PTS to someone, you can either handle that person. So, for example, if they're just misinformed on what Scientology is, they suggest that you educate the person and handle any wrong information they have.
And by misinformed, you mean informed, but not with the information Scientology want them to be informed with.
Yes. And I will be speaking as though I'm a Scientologist right now.
Yes. Yeah.
So essentially, there's quote unquote wrong information about Scientology that causes people to have bad opinions. And that is truly the real information. And then
can I interrupt for 1 second?
Sorry?
Can I interrupt for just 1 second? I'm like, ooh. So I have two different experiences. One is being disconnected from, and the other is helping people disconnect. Yeah. So I have kind of like these two perspectives. And so don't forget that I said that, so I can give you some stories about that.
I will 100% make sure you tell us those stories, because that's the purpose of this.
Yes, because I'm old and I forget.
And I'm going to introduce a bit more about you, because
Okay. No.
you have a unique perspective than Alex or I have. All right, so the next thing you can do is disconnect.
Yeah.
Scientology will 100% vehemently deny that disconnection is a thing. However, it is in their texts, and it's very easy to find. And I love using Scientology against Scientology. I love it. There's literally a section right here called disconnection in the ethics book. And so essentially, everything in here is just saying how to disconnect and when you would disconnect. Usually the first thing you do if someone is truly a declared SP per this is you disconnect. There's no handling. And in fact, it says in here, the person's not going to get handled, just disconnect from them.
But how do you know if they're an SP though, Jeff?
Well, how do we know?
Yeah.
There are suppressive acts that are in here. Now, I'm going to cover what was affected my life most, because it's the one I know most about. Yeah. Very, very brief overview. My mom was on staff, and she was in a relationship with the senior CS of Vancouver work, who was down at Flag, which is the building in Clearwater where they do all the high level training. And he blew from Flag. And blowing is an unauthorized departure. He refused to go back, and therefore he got declared, because that is a declarable offense to blow and not handle yourself.
I remember
so
that.
Because my mom stayed with him, she was technically a suppressive person. And here is the exact suppressive act that she is guilty of, or was guilty of: failure to handle or disavow or disconnect from a person demonstrably guilty of suppressive acts. He was, and she stayed. And there's another similar one that is essentially the same thing. But because of that, she was technically an SP. And when I was in the Sea Org, I was forced to disconnect from her, which we will go over a little bit later. It is a difficult story for me to tell, but I do want to tell it. I hope that explains a bit more about what we're talking about. So, disconnection, Gabe. Your post in this when I was on staff with you was predominantly HCO, so ethics officer, held from above, essentially. I would love to hear your stories about disconnection, and obviously with your own disconnection from your family members, but also times that you used it against other people.
We don't have enough time for that.
Pick one each.
Pick one. The one that really comes to mind is there was this young girl who was recruited to go down to Clearwater, Florida for training. She was getting sent down there to be an auditor. So I had several different roles in having her break up with her fiance because he didn't want her to go. So my interest in the whole thing was just to get her down to Flag. So there was a whole, like, in order to handle somebody that is this important, almost every staff member gets involved in it and has some role to play. But basically, what I was doing with her and a few other people, we were very close to the situation. We were basically coaching her in how to break up with him and what to say, because he was basically being the perfect SP and saying it's a cult. You're throwing your life away. All they want is your money. Like, all this stuff was being said. So she had to do what's called dead agenting. So basically handle these comments with him. And like, that's how it first started, right? First you try to handle. So we go through all of this, like you role play, and you're like, okay, so this is what you say, and blah blah blah. And this is the PTS handling, because if he was antagonistic to her, and she therefore is PTS as a result of him being Mr. antagonistic against Scientology. So this went on for months. It went on for. It was crazy. And it would, he would sort of be on board, and then he would be off board, and then he would, and then she was like, at one point she was like, okay, so he's going to really do this, and he's agreeing, and this, like, it's crazy. And every single time that something would change in the matter, she would have to write a report, send it to me. I would have to write the report as well, send it to all these different people, and then they would look at the situation and then give instruction on what to do next. It was just like the micromanaging that went on to handle this. So anyways, that all failed. And it all came to a head one night where he actually pulled a gun on her. Like literally pulled a gun, because her family was trying to get her away from him, and he pulled a gun. So that was a pretty easy disconnection, actually. Because it's just like, are you kidding me? Like, this only happens in movies.
So just to wind back a little bit here, Alex. So Gabe was talking about dead agenting. You were the director of public book sales, so you must have a massive amount of experience dealing with all these what they will say black propaganda or negative stuff on Scientology. Can you go over some of that where you had to use Scientology
I
to handle that kind of thing?
The whole idea of disconnection is really fascinating from a Scientology PR angle, because like you mentioned, Scientology will say, no, we don't disconnect people. We don't tear families apart. It's the same with the, no, you don't believe in Xenu stuff. But the truth is different. And what we used to say at London Org, and this is what I was told when I first went in, I said, what's this about disconnection? Is this kind of like a half truth, a half lie? They'll say like, so the answer we get, I heard that you tear families apart and force people to disconnect. And they go, no, that's not what happens, right? There is a policy of disconnection, like we're not denying it. However, it's completely misunderstood in the press, and people talk about it as if it's something it's not. And the example they used for me was like, imagine you're at school and there's a bully, right? And there's someone that's not very nice to you. You naturally would not want to then go and spend time with that person, and you would distance yourself from that person. That's what disconnection is, right? It's just a person's choice to not spend time or have a communication with or any connection to someone who is getting in your way in life, or being mean to you or rude or whatever. And you kind of go, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, fine. That's the story that they give you, because in a way it's true. That's what disconnection is. But where they neglect to admit is, well, if you're in a situation where you have a family, one of, a husband and wife, or a father and a son, or a mother and daughter, or whatever, one of them's in Scientology and one of them isn't, and one of them expresses views about not liking or supporting Scientology, well, then you're given a choice. They said it's always the person's choice to disconnect. Well, technically, yeah, that's true. But the options are you disconnect from your family, or you leave your job and everything you believe in and everything you know that is Scientology, because you can't continue in Scientology without disconnecting. So yes, it's your choice, but you only really have one option to choose. So that's the difference between what was said and the reality. So we would get stuff like that all the time at London, or people coming and doing stress tests, or coming for tours around the information centre. I was quite often the first person someone would speak to or meet in Scientology, because that was my job, right? So I'd get questions like this every single day. Xenu is another story. Do you believe in aliens and Xenu and all this? And I would go, well, look, I work for the church. I've got this post as director of public book sales. I've read a lot of Scientology scripture, and I've not seen anything about Xenu or aliens. So, and I would know, I work for the church, I would know, right? And I would always back that up and say, to be honest, I was a bit disappointed when I joined Scientology. There's nothing about aliens, because I think that'd be quite cool, right? I can get on board with like an alien following thing, like cool, man. And I was a bit disappointed. No, another thing we would say is like, you know, people or they misunderstand L. Ron Hubbard's writings, because he was a science fiction writer before doing the whole Scientology thing. And the lie we would say is people misunderstand and think we believe in his science fiction writing. So yeah, he wrote about aliens and stuff, but that's his fiction. That's not the Scientology belief stuff. And all of the science fiction writing was done to fund his research into the mind.
Yeah.
We don't believe in his science fiction. That's what we would say.
Scientific research.
Yeah. So that's how we would handle it. You know, but also, yes, I was lying to people, but it was true. I hadn't seen anything about Xenu because I hadn't reached that level yet.
It's an acceptable truth.
Acceptable truth, yes.
Yeah, that's what they call it in Scientology. Yeah. That's PR lingo. Now, on the Xenu stuff, there's plenty of alien stuff in the lectures, which is why I actually enjoyed listening to them, because I like science fiction type stuff. And I always think, oh, cool, the Markab for Confederacy, and, you know, this invader force and this invader force, and all this
good fantasy.
It's fantasy, right? I mean, much like Scientology, but there's all kinds of, like,
evil
if you look deep enough, it's there, right? Yeah. And I'm actually quite astonished at how much is in, like, the history of man, and what's the other one, the creation of human ability and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's phenomenal. It's all early stuff from the 50s, because he just blurted out a bunch of stuff, and, you know, verbal diarrhea, and then he had to somehow back it up with some sort of quote unquote study and auditing and so forth. But
you know what my first book was that I read? Have You Lived Before This Life?
Yeah, that's another good one.
That was so cool. Past lives are interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have it? Oh my God, Jeff! They I think there was only like one edition.
No,
they don't
have that one, unfortunately.
I don't think it's an official book anymore. Like, you can't buy it in a bookstore.
Right.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter.
It was fascinating.
Yeah.
I have lots of unofficial books here.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyways,
so
disconnection.
Third tangent. Would you like me to go over my disconnection story?
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna cry.
No, you won't cry. If I don't cry, you won't cry. So I do want to just bring up real quick here. So there was a comment here. I thought Jeff was underage. Surely it's not legal to disconnect from parents when still a child. That's an excellent point. So
there's lots of things like that sound like they should be illegal that Scientology do anyway, right?
Yes, and it was. So I'll try and be as...
Under the banner of religion.
Yeah, exactly. I'll try and be as concise as I can with this. So when I was 14, I was essentially trying to get away from going to school. And I was recruited and convinced to go down to the Sea Org down in LA. My goal at the time in Scientology was to become an auditor. And that's what I was promised. So I said, okay, you know what? I will do that. I was convinced it was for the greatest good. So unfortunately, my dad said it was okay. However, he didn't have legal guardianship of me. So I went down there, and I was down there for a good amount of time, a few weeks to a month, I think. And my mom found out, who did have legal guardianship of me. And she raised a big stink about it, to the point where I got flown back up to Canada in order to handle my mom in the situation and make it so I was allowed to stay. I was coached very intensely on what to say and what to go over and what not to go over, and essentially to convince my mom that this was my decision and no one else's. And I was successful in this, and I got sent back down to LA with my mother's blessings. However, shortly after, I was working in the galley doing some physical labor as a 14-year-old. Just want to mention that again. And I slipped and I burnt my leg. on a hot pipe, which meant that I was PTS and I had to get medical handling. It wasn't a serious burn, but it had happened. So as part of the PTS
I think
handling,
also, sorry to interrupt, Jeff, but just to give the viewers some context, what you just said about being PTS, like Elron Hubbard would right to say you, the only cause of illness or accidents or anything like that is because you're connected to a suppressive person. There's no such thing as just slipping because the floor was wet or something. No, well, yes, that happened, but you only allowed yourself to be put in that situation because you're being affected by and a suppressive person. So any accident that happens is your fault, and you are PTS.
You have a present time problem.
Yeah,
there's no way around it.
Yeah,
you just are. That's your PTS. If anything bad happens to you, you're PTS. You get sick, you're PTS.
Yeah.
So
anything
that's why
bad.
I'm PTS for life, because I trip. I don't get sick very often. Yeah, Alex, we get it. Goldenrod. It's a badge of honor.
Well, I think collectively we've probably been promoted to full-blown SP now. All right, by now, I'd imagine.
Oh, I was.
I hope so.
Yeah, I knew I was. I was told. Yeah. Anyways.
So
back to your story, Jeff.
The handling for PTS condition is education. So as a 14-year-old, basically brand new into Scientology, I had to read the policy on it and see what it is and what the handling is. And they presented me with two things: you can handle or disconnect. Now, when I'm 14 and I'm trying to handle two adults, one of them is my parent, and one of them is the spouse, who is a declared SP. What am I going to do? Am I going to go handle that? No. Right? Like, I'm not going to do anything. So they told me that I was out-qualified for the Sea Org or out-qualified. It means I didn't qualify to stay there if I stayed connected. So they convinced me just to disconnect. I mean, I wasn't going to see her anyway because I was in the Sea Org. You don't get family time in the Sea Org. You don't get to go home for Christmas and all this stuff. All things they didn't tell me, of course. They told me that we had, days off and all this stuff.
Right.
Anyway, so I did. I wrote a disconnection letter, and just this past week, my mom has passed away, and we were clearing out her estate. And I learned a lot about my mom this week. But I did also find my beautifully written disconnection letter. I don't actually think it's the entire thing, because it starts off with, it doesn't even say hi mom or anything like that. So there might have been a first page, but anyway, I'm going to read it.
Oh, I'm going to cry.
I'm going to get the tissues ready.
Get the tissues.
Okay.
I will not cry. I'm going to keep my TRs in.
It's okay.
Jeff,
you're allowed
you can cry
now.
You're allowed to cry.
Yeah,
you're
allowed to have 18
I cried plenty last week.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So just to clarify, so the HCOB, which is the reference that the PTS handling is based on, is called 10 August 1973. That's just when it was written. So it starts off with A, discover, which means discover the suppressive person you were PTS to, and B, handle or disconnect. Quote, defines ethics as ethics consists simply of actions on an individual takes on himself. It is a personal thing. When one is ethical or has his ethics in, it is by his own determination and is done by himself. Remember, I'm 14 when I'm writing this.
You're writing this?
Like, this is handwritten.
Oh my God. You're just writing out of the ethics book then?
Essentially, yeah.
Oh, geez.
And then so I write, LRH defines justice as justice is the action taken on the individual by the group when he fails to take the actions himself, end quote. I even put a reference in there, the Introduction to Scientology Ethics book, page 94.
Yes, you always reference the reference.
Yeah, because I can't quote LRH without putting the reference in.
That's right.
Yeah, there's a very specific way when writing about L. Ron Hubbard stuff, because you don't want to get told off for squirreling, which is where you
right.
alter the tech or change it, and you can't give verbal tech where you kind of just speak about it or summarize it. You have to give it word by word exactly how L. Ron Hubbard wrote it. So anytime you reference
Verbatim.
Scientology scripture, you have to literally write what book it's from or policy letter, the date, the page number, and if you don't do that, you get in big trouble.
Yep.
Yeah, very big trouble. It's a crime, or at least a crime, but definitely a high crime. So I'm writing this with Sea Org members, the MAA, which is the Master at Arms or the ethics officer of the Sea Org, the Estates Project Force, like next to me. So I'm doing this under duress, and I feel like if I don't do this, then I'm going to get kicked out. So I will continue. Per my ethics and the group's ethics, I see that the situation is out ethics. And it's referring to the situation with her husband and so forth that he's blown. I need to put my ethics in by asking you and Frank, who was her spouse at the time, to put your ethics in by handling the situation with Frank, or I will have to disconnect. I'm asking you first to handle the situation because I love you so very much. And I don't want to disconnect whatsoever. But if I have to, I will. Because of the situation, I'm out call for the Sea Org. Please write back ASAP and let me know. Love, Jeff Beaumont. And I signed my full name to my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a formal letter, right? This isn't, something to joke about. This is this is like sending a legal document almost to someone.
Yeah. So that was me, and that was the last time I communicated with my mom for, I want to say 20 years, because obviously, what is she going to say to that, right?
And she was a long-time staff member.
She was the
long time.
She was in the Guardian's office in the 70s in Toronto.
Yeah.
She was a very dedicated staff member.
Very.
She had 2 kids at home. My dad was working full time. My dad was on staff too. I essentially grew up in the halls of the Vancouver organization. Like anybody there who was there then knows me.
Yeah.
Like I am well acquainted with all of the people in Scientology Vancouver.
Do you think that's why your mum maybe didn't kick up a big fuss or anything and just kind of complied because she knows the policy, because she was a Scientologist and she knew that you can't fight this? And do you think that kind of came to play?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to end it off with some good news though, because later on in her life, her and I did reconnect. And the past 10 years we have been in touch. The last 2 days of her life, she was in hospital, and I was unable to make it there, unfortunately, but we talked on the phone quite a bit, and I was able to apologize for what I did. And
oh no, Gabriel, you're gonna make me cry now.
Oh, Jeff.
So, with her, she always loved me, and she never said otherwise. She forgave me for what I did, and we ended up, the last words we said to each other was that we love each other. So she was still a believer that she was going to move on to another body, and so she still believed in Scientology technology, but I know that at least at the end of her life, and she knew where we stood and everything was clear. So that was important, because I don't know how I would feel if I didn't get a chance to tell her that.
This is the thing that I really, this is one of the main motivators. Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. I think this is one of the main motivators for me speaking out, and why I think it's so important other people do, is because you're lucky that you managed to have that opportunity to have communication and rebuild a relationship and do that, because this is going on currently right now as we speak in every city pretty much in the world where there's a Scientology organization. This is not just something that happens at the headquarters. This happens at every level of Scientology, and it's going on right now, right? And who knows how many people haven't had that opportunity to reestablish and rebuild a connection or a relationship.
I didn't.
Exactly.
My sister passed away before I had a chance. It's devastating from personal experience. And I'm gonna cry again. I'm gonna lose my shit here, you guys, because it's like it's so hard to deal with. And it's been like, I got out 10 years ago. She disconnected from me pretty quick because I was trying to get her out and talking to her on the phone. And then she turns around and tells the executive director that, whatever it was, she wrote a big KR. That's what I know. After I told her that, I told her about the Debbie Cook letter. I told her about Miscavige's abuses. I told her about the forced abortions. I was telling her everything I knew after the deep dive that I did. And she just sat there quietly on the phone listening to me. And I thought, this is really strange. She isn't saying anything to me. I spent 2 hours on the phone with her, and that was the last time I spoke to her, after I told her everything that I knew to try and get her out. And the next time I saw her, she was in the hospital on life support. And then she died. It's just like, and I wouldn't even have found out that she was in the hospital if it was because her husband didn't call me. Nobody called me from the org. None of our friends. I mean, I was already declared, right? It's just like, and this is just one example. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of people who have gone through this heartache, and it is absolutely unnecessary.
Yeah.
It's
and
gross.
knowing your sister, Anita, I can see she was definitely dedicated.
She was so completely indoctrinated. And she actually didn't even disconnect from me. There was no disconnection letter, nothing.
She just stopped talking.
That was it. Just cut the communication line. And she did the PTSSP course 3 times.
Yeah.
So nobody had to actually tell her to do that. And proof of that is emails that I got from other people. And I was, asking her, I said, like, she didn't even talk to me. She didn't say anything. And the response is, well, nobody told her to disconnect. Well, no, because they're so heavily indoctrinated into all of that stuff, into she's declared, you have to disconnect. That's it. Like, not even an attempt. I'm her sister. Like, don't you think you would at least try? Like, what's going on? Why are you doing this? You're going to get declared. You're my sister. Nothing like that. That's how heavily indoctrinated she was.
That's the thing with Scientology, is it's such a totalitarian belief system. In Scientology, there's no ambiguity or gray area. It's like you are either with us or against us. Die in the attempt, as per KSW. That's an actual quote, right? So there isn't room for like interpretation or anything. And so if you are not on board, you are getting in the way of other people's spiritual freedom. And this is the only way that the whole of the human race and the whole of mankind is going to be helped. So if you're not supportive of that, then I don't want anything to do with you anyway, regardless of who you are, because you might be my brother, my sister, my mum, my dad this lifetime, but next lifetime you won't be. So family therefore means nothing. What is important is what I'm doing to clear the planet. That's how people are thinking when they're indoctrinated.
But they don't even think about, and this is where what drives me crazy, because I'm not like this, is they don't think about like the idea that they won't try to salvage you. Salvage. Oh, I wouldn't have gone back, obviously, but there was hardly even an attempt. It was just like, I mean, the years of dedicated staff, I mean, so many people I sent to, I did a lot. you
Mhm.
know, in terms of Scientology production, right? And, you know, just a couple hours, all it took was, you know, to tell her the truth. And that was it. She
Well,
completely ruined our family's life.
and once your stats are down,
Yes,
like
it's the
it doesn't
guillotine.
matter what you've done in the past. It's all
Yeah,
reset every week. And
yeah,
so
it's
you
so
could have been
crazy.
the top bookseller in the world for 10 years straight. You do one thing wrong if your stats are down and your head's on the chopping block.
Yeah.
I mean, my stats weren't even down. I was in power and I still managed to get kicked out. So
Well,
sometimes
see,
that
there
doesn't
you
even
go.
matter when it's meant to give you protection. But no, it's stupid that whatever trivial reason they'll find, you know, once someone decides that they want rid of you, they will get rid of you in whatever way they
Yeah,
can. It's so heartless. And you know,
it's
it
like you're
actually goes
trash.
against policy when you think about the idea of Scientology meaning to help people and, you know, help mankind. Why are they putting barriers in there, like in the way? They're kicking out the people that want to stay and they're
Yeah,
keeping in the people that want to leave.
yeah.
It
But,
makes
you know,
zero
yeah.
sense.
And they're not applying their own policy. Like in
Yeah.
my case, we didn't see any KRs. Like you're supposed to be confronted with the knowledge reports. These are the
Mhm.
reports of all the bad stuff you've done. You know,
Hmm.
you're supposed to have like justice. You know, even what's called a committee of evidence. It's anyways their form of justice. None of that.
Hmm.
So
You
they
didn't get a
violate
committee of evidence?
nothing.
But you can't be declared without a committee of evidence.
Of course not.
So
But
you're not
Here's
this is
another
declared.
one, Jeff.
This is the new Miscavige Scientology, right? It's like instant declares.
Yeah. Jeff, you said you like using Scientology against Scientology, right?
Yeah,
So
I love
if
it.
you're declared a potential trouble source, like
Oh
I
yeah.
was, part of that process, you have to figure out who the suppressive person is, right? You can't declare someone PTS without identifying who you're PTS to, because you're meant to be able to handle or disconnect. You can't handle or disconnect if you don't know who the problem is. I got
Mhm.
this. There was never any notice or
Ooh,
investigation or discussion about who I'm PTS to.
Were you
but
blaming them for for things?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He was kicking up a fuss.
I
Yeah.
was kicking up a
Well,
fuss.
you were writing reports to uplines, right?
Yeah, I was complaining because I went into session and I came out more like upset and I was kicking up a fuss. I was like, going into session is meant to raise you on the tone scale. It's meant to make you feel better. And that's not what's happened here. So I was
Right.
kicking up a fuss because I was trying to get Scientology applied correctly. I was like,
Mm.
you know, I think this hasn't been done properly because as per policy, I've not gone up on the tone scale. And all I want is Scientology to work for me. And I want the auditing session to be done correctly so that I don't feel upset. And they took that to mean I was
Yeah.
saying Scientology doesn't work.
Right.
But
Well,
blessing
they
in
didn't know
disguise.
how else
Because
to handle you.
yeah.
You know, Alex, in all the years that I was in HCO, I never wrote a PTS type B declare.
Wow.
It's the most confusing thing. A lot of those PTS types, it's so confusing.
Hmm. Well, I
It's
can read you the exact quote here. So, potential trouble source type D. It says LRH says in the above reference, D, responsible for condition cases have been traced back to other causes for their condition too often to be acceptable. By responsible for condition cases is meant the person who insists a book or some auditor is wholly responsible for the terrible condition I'm in. Such cases demand unusual favors, free auditing, tremendous effort on the part of auditors. Review of these cases show they were in the same or worse condition long before auditing, and they are using a planned campaign to obtain auditing for nothing, that they are not as bad off as they claim, and that their antagonism extends to anyone who seeks to help them. So that's basically them going, oh, you had a bad session and you red tagged because you were upset. Well, actually, no, that's all because you're using some planned campaign and you're far worse than you ever thought you were before you even joined Scientology. There's no
yeah,
helping you. Bye-bye.
yeah. Oh, you're so diabolical.
Yeah.
You know, it's just it's so insane. Like, did they
Yeah.
even give you any examples of how you did that? All you were trying to do is apply Scientology.
Yeah. That's
Well, there's his
exactly the
first
argument we're
mistake.
having. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yes, Jeff. Yeah. But it's a blessing in disguise, because if they hadn't have kicked me out, I'm almost 100% certain I would still be in Scientology today. I would be in the Sea Org in America, and I would have no relationship with my family.
The thing that I find fascinating about the PTS Type D there is, it's not like you came in off, like you weren't just a public. You were doing things for them. And in exchange, you were getting auditing.
And only a few weeks earlier, I had a commendation from COCPLO UK, which is the commanding officer of the Chief Publications Liaison Unit or office, basically the person in charge of like book sales in the whole continent. She wrote a commendation basically saying how fantastic a job we're doing and how I've managed to get the stats into a new territory and it's vital for Scientology expansion, the highest stats London has seen for 2 years. Only a few weeks later, they then say I was the worst person ever to walk this planet and I've always been worse than I've ever imagined. It just shows the hypocrisy of it.
And getting a commendation, just so everyone is aware of, so in the hierarchy of Scientology Sea Org, Bridge Publications is pretty high. Like they're right below Gold and CMO and all that, right? So if you're from Bridge, you have to be highly qualified, and to get someone into a commanding officer, which is the highest position you can get in a continent, you are listened to and revered as a good person and a high-end person. So to get a commendation from someone like that,
it's a big deal.
They even had the time to focus on you.
I have multiple of these things. I was like smashing it.
Yeah.
And that's another thing.
Alex,
yeah.
I just thought of something. You know what you should have done is ask for a board of review up lines, like bypass the entire org and then go up to the. Did you do that? Oh,
I wrote to the Continental Justice Chief and complained. And the Continental Justice Chief at St. Hill basically looked into it. And because my return program was do the entire basics, books and lectures package from start to finish, I worked out that if I do, I think it was like a lesson a day or something, I worked out it would take 3 years to do it.
Yeah.
And I wrote to the Continental Justice Chief, and they didn't do a board of review, but the Justice Chief wrote back and basically reviewed the program and said, okay, you need to do this, this, and this. So I had a shorter return program.
So they didn't question the declare?
No.
How stupid.
I know.
Honestly.
I know.
Like, even from being out for so long, it's like, if I was the Continental Justice Chief, that's the first thing I would do is look into the actual, where's the evidence?
Yeah.
But
and I wrote in this report.
Isn't done.
Yeah, I wrote in this report, I was like, look, I dedicated my life to Scientology. I'd signed my Sea Org contract at this point in time. Right? I was on a project prepared to go arrive at the Sea Org at Flag and do my EPF, right? And so I was like, I'm as dedicated as they come. I wouldn't have done that if I didn't believe in Scientology. So what they're saying about me is completely preposterous. And
they made a big mistake.
Yeah, I know. But as I said, it's a good thing because linking it back to the disconnection thing, like it was so clear that they were on this path to try and get me to disconnect from my family because my mum wasn't a Scientologist, my father wasn't. They weren't like completely anti-Scientology. But when I went home and said to my mum, hey, I've signed my life away to go and move to America to do this thing, she's not exactly going to be like, oh my God, that's great. Great, amazing. See you later. So there was a whole program to handle my mum and my dad and my family. And I think it was getting to the point where it was like very soon I would have to make that decision. And luckily I didn't get there. I got kicked out beforehand. But that's what I'm saying about dodging a bullet. If I hadn't have been kicked out when I was in the mindset where I was fully prepared to do that and move to the other side of the world and never speak to my family again.
Wow.
It's a scary mindset to be in, that you can completely erase any emotional connection to people who raised you, who you grew up with, all because they have a different opinion of you. I can't imagine being in that position again, or thinking anything else was even that important, that like in the world.
Right.
Like that would be worth saying, no, you can, go pound sand. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. All because you have a different opinion.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things they use against you. Like, what you said earlier, Jeff, about when you were handling your mum, the disconnection is like, you want to make it clear it's your decision to join the Sea Org, right?
Yeah.
This
Oh
is
yes,
what they
it
would
has
do
to
with
be
my mum,
self-determined.
is they would say, look, tell her it's your decision. And if she doesn't respect that, then she, you know, there's obviously a problem there. So then you start thinking, well, even if it wasn't my decision, I've told her it is. And if she doesn't respect that, then we've got an issue. So Scientology were creating an issue by making you think like, well, she should respect what you want to do. Why doesn't your family, your parents, why don't they support you in making your own decisions?
Yeah.
Therefore, do you really want to be connected to someone who doesn't support you making your own decisions anyway? And so that becomes the problem in your way of thinking. And you kind
Right.
of forget about the first thing of like, well, was it really your decision? Or were you perhaps coerced into it?
It's also another way to isolate people. It's
Yes.
like you insulate yourself so much when you're in the cult, and disconnection is the perfect way to make sure that nobody gets in the way. You know, it's like you just keep dropping people off. I dropped a whole bunch of friends when I got into Scientology, you know, because they weren't on board. So it's like, well, I don't want to be around people who aren't on board. Well, you know, in the real world, you agree to disagree with people, or, you know, somebody's a Muslim or a Christian. It's like you don't just, like, you know, fluff them off or whatever, but it's just a control mechanism, right?
Yep. It's gross.
It is. It's actually, but it's so well thought out. It's so perfect to create a cult. It's like, what better way to actually insulate your members, you know,
And
to make
they're
them
so
get rid of people.
they're so protective of their PR image as well. Like a lot of this links back to their public image. And for example, you know, you're not qualified to join the SEAL organization if one of your parents is antagonistic. So of course, why do they have that in place? It's not because when you join the SEAL, you're not going to, like, there is no reason why you can't have a communication with your family outside of Scientology when you're in the SEAL. Like realistically, yes, you're working all the time and you're busy, but if you were allowed to have a phone and you were allowed to talk to your family, that's not going to get in the way of you doing your job.
Exactly.
But if there's someone, if your family aren't 100% behind you, then they could create a problem for the church with you joining the SEAL. So it's all about protecting their image, because they wouldn't want a family member kind of, you know, whispering in your ear and getting you to feel a certain way, or you have to be fully on board. So it's all about their image.
Right.
You know,
And they shoot themselves in the foot at the same time.
yeah.
Because
what
they
they're
could
good
have
at.
lots of members, right? If you were able to, if my sister was able to stay connected to me, you know, even though I said I'm never stepping into a church of Scientology ever again, it's like, if you want to do Scientology, you go for it, but it's not for me. And if it just was left at that, then no harm, no foul, right? Everybody, we go on, we continue to have our family gatherings and stuff like that. But no, they can't do that. You know?
I mean, sorry, like on that point, like I know people who are Catholic or other religions, and they're deep into it.
Yeah.
I don't believe in their teachings at all.
Right.
But they don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't change our relationship. It doesn't mean that we can't talk.
Yeah. If it
they
was
just don't
truly a
talk to me about
religion.
that.
Yeah. So anyways,
they are their own worst enemy.
Definitely.
So
And
I'm
and
pretty
the worst,
sure like 90% of Scientology's problems are easily fixable, but they're not going to ever do it. For example, you know, letting SEAL members have contact with the outside world, paying the minimum wage, allowing someone to retire and have a pension or something, or, you know, providing good medical care, little things like this, not forcing families to disconnect. These are all reasonable things that Scientology could do that would make the whole thing a lot more tolerable and a lot less painful and harmful. But they're never going to do it, because the policy is you cannot change what L. Ron Hubbard said.
Yeah. And on the point of having phones, I just think a couple anecdotes. When I was in the Sea Org Glass in 2012, I was in Toronto and I had a phone with me. It was supposed to be taken away from me, because you're not allowed to have phones in the Sea Org, especially not on the EPF. And I would actually Google and look at anti-Scientology stuff while I was laying in my bunk, because I was one of the only people on the EPF, and I had the room to myself. It was great.
Awesome.
And then another funny story, I was speaking with someone recently who knows someone who is in a very high level Sea Org on the EPF, and is in contact with this person who is leaving Scientology, known to be, and he has a phone.
Oh, good.
And he's like texting back and forth with this person, and they're definitely not supposed to. And the organization that this person is going into, if they knew, this would 100% get them in a lot of trouble, and they wouldn't be qualified. So I'm hoping that this person contacts the person who's on the EPF and or somehow rats them out so they don't have to follow through with the Sea Org thing. But
yeah.
we'll
and yet the whole concept of owning a mobile phone, like if they take your things away from you, that is an abuse of human rights. Like Scientology go on and on about how they promote human rights and they campaigning against human rights abuses, and yet at the same time they're preventing their own staff from
that just
the
makes
right
me
to
throw up so much when I hear that stuff.
It's hugely hypocritical.
Well, I don't know if they still do it, but they used to take passports and so forth away.
So
they took mine away when I went down there to train.
Yeah, they took mine away.
I've been informed that they stopped doing that a couple of years ago because there was such an uproar about it, and there was a worry that the FBI were going to go and do a raid or something, so they now let you keep your passport. But that doesn't mean you can leave the property.
Right. Well, you can, but you'll get in trouble for it. Like,
well, I think it depends on where you go, right? Because if you're in the Sea Org, there's blow drills, for example. Like if you look at this St. Hill and where all the Sea Org staff live and they're berthing, like it's down this country road, and there's like these floodlights that automatically turn on at night time if someone leaves. Like they try and prevent you from leaving, and if you do leave, everyone has a post assigned to them. They got to run and go and try and locate them, and you hear the stories about the gold base. Like this happens around the world. If you're training a flag, for example, you might have the opportunity to go to the bathroom or something and then just run off, but they'll still come looking for you. They'll come and find you.
Yeah, and they will contact.
It's hard to leave, though. I mean, I used to blow off post all the time.
I blew off once, and Charlie Wackley, my senior, he came to my house.
Yeah, I used to
like
get
in the middle of the day
all the time.
He literally came to my house and he was like, Alex, like, and talked me into coming back. And I was like, dude, I just need a day. I'm so pissed off with everything in the church right now. If you just give me a day off, I will be fine and I'll come back in tomorrow.
Yeah.
That was the problem with being on foundation staff, is you never had a day where you weren't connected or expected to be there. Whereas the day people can have the weekend to, do their thing.
Well, unless you're in Div 6 when you got to go book selling on the weekend.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I still remember getting when Shelly, she was the flag trained Class 8 OT3 senior CS.
Shelly Hockett.
Yeah, Shelly Hockett. She came back and she started doing meter checks on the staff. So as you walk into post, you go directly on the meter to check and see if you've done something bad that weekend or whatever. Is at least once a week. And if your needle wasn't perfect, and you get into trouble. It's like, talk about coming. Can you imagine going to a regular job and having your boss throw you on a lie detector or something and start interrogating?
Yeah, like getting drug tested every time you go to work.
Yeah, exactly.
You see, you didn't tell them about all the drugs you took and the hookers you slept with and the wild night out you had the night before and how you're hungover. You didn't tell them that, no?
No.
Here's a quick little story. So every time those meter checks would happen, right? If somebody failed it, they would get sent to write up their overts and withholds. So all the bad things they did, they had, and of course they would get sent up to my office. And there was times where so many people flunked the test, and there was I had to keep track of 10 people all writing, and then you had to arrange for them to get another meeting. It was a logistics nightmare.
I bet, because
One
you were the only person
person.
up there. Yeah.
It was, one of these days we should talk about just the meter checks alone, and people trying to get through an OW write-up. It's crazy.
Well, and it doesn't matter if you're upset or not either.
Exactly. So
And
much for the policy.
It's such hypocrisy.
Yeah.
It's nutty.
Yeah.
Anyway, there are a few questions.
Oh,
you guys
good.
want to tackle some? And then we'll wrap up here. If anybody in the live there has any questions, feel free to pop them in there. Start with this one here. Pretty simple one. Yes. So, what?
Yes.
Agro-Siri in the backseat.
Cyril in the backseat. What the heck is that?
Agro-Siri, like a aggressive, mean Siri in the backseat. Okay. Anyway, I think it's clever.
Okay.
So yes, they call it a 10 August. 10 August meaning referring to the HCOB date that it was written, 1973, 10 August. It's one of those things that Scientology uses language to separate regular people from Scientologists to make it so they don't understand what they're talking about. If you say you're doing a 10 Aug, that means you're doing a PTS handling. Talk about making it so impersonal. So I think I answered this for you, Danielle, already once.
Hi, Danielle. Hope you're well. Danielle's awesome.
Yes, she is. I would love to sit down and have a chat with you when things are settled down for you there. Gabe, did you know an Isabel Cassidy at all?
No, the last name doesn't even ring a bell.
I'm afraid we cannot help you with that.
Bummer.
So this one was interesting. I did see people talking about this in the chat yesterday regarding events happening in Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. No. And I didn't actually know that there were churches there or not. Do you know?
Nope. There, as far as I know, there. Oh, wait a minute. I think there was only missions. Maybe I know Lynn Rigg was from.
Where's the new AO there? But aren't they building a huge AO somewhere? Or is
that's here where I am in Toronto area?
Yeah, outside Toronto.
Isn't it? Yeah, they have a. I'm actually about an hour away from one of the only. No, the second. There's only 2 ideal orgs in Canada, and one is in Cambridge. They're not too far from me. I actually want to go check it out because they won't know me from Jack, so I could just walk in there.
Well, that's not true. There are a lot of Vancouver Scientologists moving.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, but I'm a lot fatter now, so they probably won't recognize me.
She looks familiar somehow.
Nah, no. Even if they ask, I'll deny it.
So anyway. I don't know anything about this, but I think it's fascinating. It could be a mission or something.
I had no idea.
But I would find it very unlikely that anybody from Nova Scotia or Newfoundland would be interested in Scientology. It's such a small population, and they're very other religious. Let's just say that, as far as I know. Hello, Laura.
Oh, cool.
We love Laura. Laura's great.
Hopefully she's still here.
Laura's got a great intro video, by the way, to her channel. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have to check it out.
I'm only saying that because I made it.
Okay. So what you're saying is you're going to make one for us too. Gotcha.
Of course. Always happy to help.
And just so Laura knows, I'm actually close to Toronto. Well, about 2 hours from Toronto. So where her family used to be. I think she still has family here.
Amazing.
Sorry, that was a fly on my screen.
Oh, I thought you were just waving.
No. Trying to get the fly off my screen. There's more bugs in Ontario than there are in BC. Just a little,
And they'll carry you away.
Yeah.
They're big.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like Laura is still on here.
They have crickets, and they're always making sounds. It's really interesting. Anyway,
I don't like bugs. I'm not a big bug guy.
Yeah, you wouldn't do well here.
No. When I went to Atlanta last year, I was like, went out at nighttime, and I was obviously it's in a city, and I was like, why is there so much noise? Like all these crickets and stuff in the tree. Like the like nature is really loud. What's going on? Louder than bloody the center of London where I live.
That's what it's like.
My wife and I stayed at a place on the island recently, and the entire day it was crickets all day.
I was like, just shut up.
Yeah. You'd walk outside and you're like, what
listen.
the heck?
Yeah, they don't
I'm
listen
gonna
to you.
record it, Alex, and send it to you.
That's the sound when nobody shows up to a live stream, just crickets.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
All right.
Okay, what else?
Danielle. So
how should I clear off the
she's talking about she was doing TRs in concourse at age 6.
That's ridiculous.
And it does take courage to leave and years to peel the onion. The reason I started this one was because I did want to mention the Aftermath Foundation. It's
Absolutely.
true this type of stuff did not exist when we were leaving. However, it is an amazing resource now for anybody. I think it's aftermathfoundation.org. If you need help leaving, or you know someone who is trying to leave and needs help, they will help you out no matter what, no matter where you are in the world, and they're there for you.
And I'm here in Toronto, or close to Toronto, and Jeff's over there on the West Coast in Canada. So let's get some of you Canadians out of the cult too.
Yeah. And I'm sure there are more people as well. Like the Aftermath Foundation have hundreds, if not thousands, of volunteers around the world that will help you with whatever it is you need. Like they've got a huge database of people who have volunteered, whether it's they can pick someone up or whether it's give someone, a place to stay for a couple of days or whatever. The Aftermath Foundation isn't in the business of convincing people to leave, but once you're ready, if you decide you need out, give them a call. And they will be there, whenever you need to pick you up, get you out, and make sure you land on your feet, help you build a resume, and get you, sorted in life so that you're not just left with nothing. They provide you with the family and the support that you need. So definitely contact them.
Yeah, and my place is always open to someone looking to leave. We have a spare bedroom and a very cute puppy that you can take for walks and pet in exchange. Yeah. It's such a great resource. So thank you. And I would also like to say thank you to Goldie for all that she does.
Yeah.
Not sure.
We love Goldie.
Yes. Do you have a link to her buy her a coffee?
I do.
Throw that up
if
there.
You want to support Goldie, you can buy her a coffee here. Show her some love because she does all this amazing stuff for us in the community, and we couldn't do it without her.
And Gabe, do you have a buy a coffee yet?
I have nothing. I know. I'm so lame.
We'll get you set up. We'll sort it out.
Okay.
If you'd like to buy Alex a coffee, I believe
there's a link there. Yeah, huh? I've got the whole shebang. There's a PayPal link. There's an Amazon wish list. There's coffee. The whole thing. I'll help you guys get set up on that as well.
I do have a buy me a coffee if you'd like to. Truth be told, though, I do just buy treats for my dog for it. So.
It's probably at the moment what I would do too.
You don't want to commit yourself to that though, because what if you suddenly earn like $20,000 in coffees or something when you've got like 1 million subscribers? So at the moment you buy dog treats, but in the future, you can use it to buy new equipment and everything that you need for your channel. You don't want to limit yourself.
Truth now. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of ex-Sea Orgs that have landed on their feet and are doing really well. But there's a lot of guys that, spent most of their lives in the cult, in either in the Sea Org or in a Class 5 org, and you pretty much give up your life. Like I gave up a career. I could have been like, the whole Freedom 55 thing, but in order to support myself and keep a roof over my head, I started my own business, which a lot of Scientologists do. They're like entrepreneurs, but they do stuff like window cleaning, but you can't do window cleaning when you're 70 years old, or like what I did, house cleaning and commercial cleaning. Like my back is screwed. So, you do these things and you look back and you go, holy crap, that's 25 years of my life gone. And you can't get that time back. And I'm too old now to go to school, I think. It's like,
Well,
You're never too old to
that's
learn,
not
Gabe.
true.
I can learn new things. That's why the YouTube thing is going to be fun, because it gives you a challenge and it keeps your brain going. But but I think there's a lot of people in that position.
Have you received your big pharma check yet?
No, I'm waiting.
I'm still waiting. If any
Mine's still in the
big
mail.
pharmaceutical companies, GlaxoSmithKline, Pfizer, Moderna, any of these, if you want to sponsor my channel, I will accept the sponsorship, and you can make the check payable to me, and I will promote you in every video. I'm more than happy to accept money from Big Pharma.
That is one of the lies that's told to Scientologists, that all SSPs are actually paid by Big Pharma.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even a joke. It sounds like a joke, but that's what they believe.
That's the one thing that I'm kind of upset that the Scientology lied about, because where's my check, Big Pharma? I can't believe Scientology lied to me about that. That's the only reason I'm doing this, is because I want to get paid by Big Pharma. No, I'm joking. That's a joke.
I started this YouTube channel, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. But it's actually a good example of, like, for someone who's currently watching this, being truthful about us and not being paid by Big Pharma. It's like, well, that's very clearly a lie that Scientology have said, so if they've lied about that, what else have they lied about? And that's maybe like a seed that you can plant in someone's head of going, how do you know where the line is between them lying and telling you the truth?
Yep, exactly. And on that note, I think we should end off with the famous quote of John Sweeney.
Oh no!
Have you got it?
Remember what it is? Hey, Scientology, do
fuck off.
I love you both. We'll talk soon.
Later, guys.